Welcome back to the Actary Magic Channel. I'm Steve, the Actary. Today we're talking about the cards out of Crimson Vow that I think are so cool, and they're all under $10. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so this video is a little bit different than my normal video, so I hope you enjoy this type of content, but let's get into it. So board wipe. I always look for new board wipe in any set that I take a look at. And by invitation only, I think it has a lot of potential for kind of dialing in and finessing exactly what we want to do with the board state. It says choose a number between 0 and 13. Each player sacrifices that many creatures. Now, this is really, really powerful because if you're going wide with like a token strategy or goblins or vampires, and you've got a huge board presence, you can really put the hurting on people that don't have that wide strategy going on. And it's only $1. Path of Peril is another great one. It's only $4. It's a double black and 1 generic sorcery with cleave. It says destroy all creatures with mana value 2 or less. This is for its 3 cost. That is so powerful. It's a one-sided nuke, especially against things like Lathril, Blade of the Elves, Krenko. A lot of humans get nuked by this. This is just such a cool dialed in card. But wait, there's more. For a black and a white and 4 generic, you can destroy all creatures instead. It's almost a modal card where you can really fine tune what you need to do with the deck, or you can just nuke everything. I really like it. All right, next up we have another pseudo board wipe. It's pretty much a board wipe. It says double blue, 2 generic sorcery. It says each player chooses a non-land permanent they control. Return all non-land permanents they not chosen this way to their owner's hand. So they get to keep 1 non-land permanent. Then you draw a card for each opponent who has more cards in their hand than you. So this is really, really good against people that, or say you're not building a huge board state and you just want to set everyone else back. It's good in that situation, but it's also good in a Cheerios build where you're wanting to return all of your non-land permanents. So it depends on which way you're really dialing it in. You're not always going to get to draw cards off of it, but it's still very powerful. And one of the most powerful ways I can think of to do something with it is Joyra, Weatherlight Captain. So it says whenever you cast a historic spell, draw a card. Artifacts are historic spells. So in the Joyra build, you're going to cast a lot of 0-drop artifacts, kind of combo through your deck, and Consuming Tide gives you a reset and also wipes your opponent's side, and then lets you get to keep Joyra herself in play. Very cool, very powerful. I think for 40 cents, you really can't go wrong with the card. All right, let's take a look at Curse. Curse of Hospitality is a really fun card. It's a 30-cent card. It's an aura, it's a curse, enchant player. Creatures attacking enchanted player have trample. When a creature deals combat damage to enchanted player, that player exiles the top card of their library. So this is the person who's cursed is getting cards exiled from their library whenever a creature deals combat damage to them. Until end of turn, that creature's controller, so the person that did the attacking, that creature's controller may play that card and they may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast a spell. So I personally would target people that are doing things that I want to do. Say somebody who's doing a lot of cantripping. I want a cantrip. Let me exile your cards. I want a mana ramp. I'm going to exile the green player's cards, etc. And it's also very, very good for targeting somebody that's just doing too much too fast so that everybody has an incentive to beat them to death. Also, you kind of peripherally, kind of synergistically, you're going to start exiling cards from their library that they need to combo off or that they need to win. And so people are just going to really hate this card. And at 30 cents, I mean, come on. All right. These are the kinds of commanders I think you play them with. Prosper, Tonebound, obviously. Whenever you play a card from exile, create a treasure token. Yes, please. But Crinkle Mob Boss, whenever you're going wide, it's, you're going to have all these tokens. So whenever you swing with this Curse of Hospitality, having all those tokens attacking you means you're just going to get through their deck and see a lot more cards way more frequently. Another good strategy is the Locust God. Whenever you have all those 1/1 flying locusts, also really good in there. All right, so graveyards. Okay, so this one's a really, really cool one. So I love the Cemetery cycle from Crimson Vow, but these I think were the most powerful. Cemetery Gatekeeper is a 1 red, 1 generic vampire. It says first strike, 2/1. When it enters battlefield, exile a card from a graveyard. When a player plays a land or casts a spell, if it shares a card type with the exiled card, Cemetery Gatekeeper deals 2 damage to that player. Great, fine and dandy. A note about whenever they're playing lands, they have to be lands from their hand, as in their land drop for the turn, or extra land drops for the turn. But if they mana ramp into it, say with like a rampant growth or a cultivate, those lands don't cause him to trigger. Just a point. Also, it's types, not subtypes, and not super types. So it's not Planeswalker, it's not legendary, it's oh, okay, Planeswalker, yes. I'm sorry. Sorry. Planeswalker, yes, that type exists, but it's not legendary, it's not snow permanents, etc. And it's also not elves, it's not vampires, that sort of thing. Cemetery Illuminator is a $4 card that I think is really powerful. It does a lot of cool stuff. It's a value card. It's double blue, one generic. Says when it enters battlefield, exile card from a graveyard. So you might even target your own stuff. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. This is a static ability. Once each turn, you may cast a spell from the top of your library if it shares a card type with a card exiled with Cemetery Illuminator. If it shares a card type with Cemetery Illuminator. So, so it's really, really powerful. One thing to note is modal cards that have like a front back. If you exile, like say, an artifact with Cemetery Illuminator, and there's an artifact and a creature, like two sides, you can cast the creature side off of Cemetery Illuminator. It's a weird interaction, but it works. Then we have Cemetery Prowler, which is a 3-drop 3/4. It says vigilance when it enters battlefield or attacks. Awesome. Exile a card from a graveyard. Spells you cast that cost one less to cast for each card type they share with cards exiled with Cemetery Prowler. So if you happen to exile an artifact creature, then artifact creatures now cost 2 less to cast, if I'm reading that right. It's a really cool card. And also Cemetery Prowler is one of the few green, like there's very few green cards that will reduce the casting cost of instants and sorceries or artifacts, and Cemetery Prowler will reduce their casting costs. It's a very unique card, very unique, and it's a mythic at $8. It's hard to like let that thing slide by, because that could be a $20 card in 2 years. I'm not giving you financial advice. All right, next up we have Cemetery Illuminator and Brainstorm. So I really like Cemetery Illuminator because what you can do is you can brainstorm during somebody else's turn, manipulate the top of your library, put that instant that you need on top, and then you're starting to cast it from the top of your library. So you can put stuff back on top that you don't want in your hand. Say, for instance, your opponents are going to make you discard stuff from your hand. Well, Brainstorm can now put that card, that really pivotal piece, back on top of your library and keep it safe. And Cemetery Illuminator gives you access to that card at instant speed. And Brainstorm can also just put that, put whatever it is you want back on top. It's just, Brainstorm's great. Now, Tutor. This is a weird tutor that I really like in the Golgari colors, because it's kind of modal. Now, what I mean by modal is that at different points in the game, you're going to want to do something different. I have used Demonic Tutor to find a land. So it's very, very powerful to be able to go and play Dig Up for 1 green. It says search your library for a basic land card and reveal it and put it in your hand, then shuffle. Okay. Or you can pay the 4 mana, 2 black, 1 green, and 1 generic, and go search for any card and put in your hand. This is so good, and it's a 30-cent tutor. If you're in the Golgari colors for any reason at all, play this card. It fixes you in so many ways, and it's 30 cents. I can't believe it's 30 cents. I know it's got 2 colors, so it's a little bit limited, but man, being for 1 green, being able to mana fix, so good. So good. I'm going to get my own copies. I'm going to get like 4. I'm going to play it in everything that I can. All right, tribes. Let's talk about some tribes. We got humans, zombies, kind of, and then we've also got wolves and werewolves. Okay, so Hamlet Guard is a 1 green, 2 generic, ward 2. When it enters the battlefield, put 2 1/1 counters on it for each non-token human you control. It really goes well in that Kyler build, and right now it's being played a lot. I suspect this one will come down in value in the next couple of months if a human deck doesn't pop up in standard. But it's one to watch, I promise you. Draw, Visionary Stitcher. It's a 1 blue, 2 generic human wizard, but it's a 1/4. It says zombies you control have flying. Okay, who thought it was a good idea to give zombies flying? All right, pay a blue and tap, sacrifice another non-token creature. Create an XX blue zombie creature token where X is a sacrifice creature's toughness. There's a lot of zombies with that have a fat butt, and this guy is going to take full advantage and turn them into something more disgusting. And we love sacrificing creatures in zombies anyway. This guy is such an easy include, especially with the new I forget his name. There's a new zombie commander that's in blue and blue black, and I forgot his name. I made a video about him. All right, Ascendant Pack Leaders, 1 green wolf, 2/1. Yes, please. It says enters battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it if you control a permanent with mana value 4 or greater. Okay, cool. Really easy in Commander. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, put a 1/1 counter on Ascendant Pack Leader. This guy's cool. He's kind of incidental value, but he's a very aggressive card. I think this guy is going to be more of a player in Modern, honestly. But I think that he also combos with other stuff in the format. So if you're like playing a bunch of like, I have a deck with Hamza where I'm casting stuff, big stuff for really cheap, but they all still have mana cost. Say like I play Ancestral Statue, I think is the one. It's a 4-drop that says whenever it enters battlefield, return target creature to your hand. Well, with Hamza, I can just make this Ancestral Statue free and cast it an infinite number of times. Well, Ascendant Pack Leader then is going to be an infinite dude. And he's probably going to have trample because all my stuff has trample that has 1/1 tokens on it. So it's a fun card. It fits in a lot of different builds. I like it a lot. Okie dokie. And our Vampy. This one's complex. This one's kind of a toolbox, as it were. It's a 4 mana, 2 black, 2 generic, 1/3 flying. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose one that hasn't been chosen. This means even the first turn that she comes out. Each player sacrifices a creature. Okay, cool. Or draw a card and you lose 1 life. Sweet. Or transform her. You can immediately transform her if you have the need. Interesting. All right, so whenever she flips, she's a 3/4 flying death touch lifelink, and she pays a 2 black and 1 generic, which is the same casting cost as Vampire Nighthawk. Each creature you control with flying, death touch, and or lifelink, it gets +1/0 until end of turn. This is where you can really spend a lot of mana to give your vampires or your creatures with flying and death touch or lifelink. You don't have to be a vampire to be really doing this. Anyway, and that's only a $4 card, $4 mythic. All right, next up we have a strange card. Overcharged Amalgam is really fun. It's a 4-drop, double blue, 2 generic, 3/3 flying flash exploit. When this creature enters battlefield, you may sack a creature. Whenever it exploits a creature, counter target spell, activate ability, or trigger ability. It does 2 things for us. It sacks a creature, and it also counters something. And it's a body so that we can return it to our hands. So it's a $2 card. It's got so much versatility. I really, really like this card. So things that I was thinking about that immediately hit my radar was Lifeline. With 5 generic, when a creature is put into a graveyard and a creature is in play, return that creature from your graveyard to play at the end of turn. So Overcharged Amalgam is going to sack your creature, but Overcharged Amalgam is going to be in play whenever it sacks something. So Lifeline is going to trigger and bring back that creature you just sacrificed. So if you have any Enter the Battlefield abilities, Overcharged Amalgam is just going to give you another trigger of that Enter the Battlefield ability. Oh, so good. All right. I also was thinking Cadaver Imp and Fairy Imposter. Cadaver Imp is going to enter the battlefield and return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So you could even get Overcharged Amalgam back or, anything big back. Fairy Imposter says when it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you return another creature you control to its owner's hand. Very good for getting Overcharged Amalgam back in your hand so you can do that stuff again. Awesome. I love this stuff. We already talked about this Tutor. I don't know why it's here twice. Always good. This is not 30 cents. It's more like $4. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, is really cheap right now. It's a staple in Modern. If you have a chance, this is so good in a stacks deck. I really like Thalia, and I haven't been able to afford her because it's just I have other things that I want to get. And for 1 white, 1 generic, 2/1, non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. It shuts so many people out of their infinite combos or their storm combos. Thalia is amazing. And then game over card, Faith Bound Judge and Sinner's Judgment. All right. At the beginning of your keep, if Faith Bound Judge has 2 or fewer judgment counters on it, put a judgment counter on it. When it has 3 more judgment counters, it can attack as though it didn't have Defender. Disturb. 2 white and 5 generic. It says enchant player. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a judgment counter on Sinner's Judgment. Then if there are 3 or more judgment counters on it, enchanted player loses the game. If Sinner's Judgment will be put into the graveyard from anywhere, exile instead. So this is really, really cool because it'll just sit on people and then just kill them. And there are some cards that reduce the activated ability, or sorry, reduce the costs of things that are in your graveyard, or even the disturb cost is an alternate casting cost, as I understand it. And things that reduce the casting cost of cards apply to Sinner's Judgment. And I have to find exact examples for you of that. Ask me in the description, and we'll talk about it further. Wht Draw. There's 2 cards in here that are Wht Draw. This is just one of the ones I picked. It's a white. It's a 2 generic. It says beginning of your end step. Put an invitation counter on Wedding Announcement. If you attack with 2 or more creatures this turn, draw a card. Otherwise, create a 1/1 white human creature token. Then, if Wedding Announcement has 3 or more invitation counters on it, transport. And then it turns into an anthem. It's really cool. I think it can go in a lot of different decks. It doesn't have to go, obviously, in a vampire deck, but I really like it. You're really encouraged to go attacking as soon as you play it. So you play it on the turn, you have a chance to go attacking. You can play this in the second main phase so that people don't know, like, to interrupt your plans whenever you go attacking. It's interesting to note. All right, tokens. $9. Most expensive card I think on our list. Manaform Hellkite is a double red, 2 generic flying, 4/4. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX red dragon illusion creature token with flying and haste, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast a spell. Exile that token at the beginning of the next end step. This is really cool for people that are playing Storm. I particularly like it for Izzet, particularly with Brutaclad. So Brutaclad, if you play something like, I don't know, Treasure Cruise with Manaform Hellkite out, Treasure Cruise is basically going to give you a 7/7 flying haste dragon. Brutaclad trigger happens, and now all of your tokens turn into 7/7 dragons. People die this way, son. It is cool. I love it. Brutaclad's fun. I love him. Okay, Change of Fortunes. This is where we enter the Jank Zone. Welcome. It's a 1 red, 3 generic. Discard your hand, then draw a card for each card you've discarded this turn. 60 cents. Awesome. All right. Come with me to the Jank Zone. Yes, Terry. We will come with you to the Jank Zone. All right. Riel, the Everwise, is a blue, a red, and 1 generic. Says whenever Riel gets 1/0 for each instant or sorcery card in your graveyard. Cool. We're already going to be doing that. Whenever you discard 1 or more cards for the first time each turn, draw that many cards. So if you're just going to cast Change of Fortune when Riel's out, awesome, fantastic. You're just going to draw double the amount of cards. But there's other ways we can abuse it. Bag of Holding is a 1-drop artifact that I don't think people play. It says whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. Pay 2, tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Pay 4, tap, sacrifice it. Return all cards exiled with Bag of Holding to their owner's hand. So I'm going to dump everything to Change of Fortune. Bag of Holding is going to hold on to all that stuff, because I'm going to be doing a lot of discard in this deck anyway. And you just keep your mana up to be able to sack Bag of Holding at instant speed. Very cool. And people don't want to spend removal on Bag of Holding. That's just silly. All right, what else can we do with it? Conspiracy Theorist is 1 red, 1 generic, 2/2 human shaman. When he attacks, you may pay 1 and discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Whenever you discard 1 or more non-land cards, you may exile 1 of them from your graveyard. If you do, you may cast it this turn. Discard your whole hand with Change of Fortune. Get 1 of those cards that you can play from your graveyard this turn, and then you have a full new hand. Curator of Mysteries is another one. This is whenever you cycle or discard another card, scry 1. Oh my goodness. What? And I believe as you're discarding your hand, each one of these triggers separately, so you can scry 7 times if you have 7 cards to discard. So it's interesting. It's like a discard is counted like a draw, I believe. Double check me. Then we also have Mystic Redaction. Whenever you discard a card, each opponent mills 2 cards. Sphinx's Tutelage, Teferi's Tutelage. Teferi's Tutelage, it says whenever you draw a card, when it enters the battlefield, discard a card. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent mills 2 cards, so you're going to be drawing a bunch of cards. Sphinx's tutelage just says whenever you draw a card, target opponent puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. If they're both non-lands, they share a color. Repeat this process. Okay, just cool. It's just like you're going to get a bunch of triggers from drawing cards and milling people. Gravy. But Feast of Sanity is another one that I really enjoy. It's a black and 3 generic. Whenever you discard a card, it deals 1 damage to any target and you gain 1 life. Yes, I'm going to shoot a bunch of stuff whenever I discarded my hand. Another one, Archfiend of Ifnir. This one's gross. I love this one. It's double black, 3 generic, 5/4 flying. Whenever you discard or cycle another card, put a -1/1 counter on each creature your opponent's control. Oh, Archfiend of Ifnir, you're my favorite demon of all time. Yeah, I think Archfiend of Ifnir is my favorite demon of all time. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming out. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. This is a long video today, but I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time on the Activate Magic channel. I love you. My button.